perspectives on today's hot topics and your chance to be part of what's important. Listen weekdays 12:30 to 3:30, afternoons with Rob Breckenridge on 770 CHQR. She'll always be a Wild Rose girl at heart. Danielle Smith on 770 CHQR.
Brought to you by the Popowich Carmeli Advisory Group, CIBC Wood Gundy.
All right, so that's an example of protests that are getting a little out of hand. And I don't think that cracking down on them is having the desired effect. In fact, my last guest thinks it's going to lead to not just a local debt crisis, but one that could spread to Europe and then the rest of the world. So let's keep an eye on that. And it shows no signs of abating either. I don't know if ours will grow into something like that, but this has really escalated in a pretty short order from back in November to where they are now. And it sounds like the European elections are going to be the key trigger point. All right. Now, it would probably be unfair of me to ask my next guest, who is a minister, about what he thinks about his colleague Shannon Phillips having to apologize for misspeaking. I don't know if I'll ask him that question. I know you want me to ask him that question, but that's not why he's here. So we'll see if we can get into that at the end. But I do want to ask him about the portfolio that he is responsible for, and two really important programs too that a lot of people rely on: the AISH, Assured Income for the Severely Handicapped, as well as income support. They have now indexed it to the Alberta Consumer Price Index. And it's going to have a big impact on those who rely on this for support. So Irfan Sabir is a Community and Social Services Minister who joins me in studio to talk about it. Minister, thanks for being with me.
Thank you for having me.
And Amber Cannon is also an income support recipient. She's going to tell us a little bit about what this will mean for her. Amber, thanks so much for being with me as well.
Thank you for having me.
You guys are both speaking very quietly. We're going to have to get you to speak a little louder. All right. First of all, when I saw this press release, Minister, I thought, don't we already do this? It would seem to make some sense that you would index these programs to inflation just to be able to keep up with the cost of living. So tell us a little bit about why now?
I think certainly it makes sense, and Albertans have been asking for it for a long time. And since we became government, we have said all along that we are committed to looking at these supports. And they are important supports for many Albertans, 250,000 Albertans who rely on these supports. And what this legislation will do, that it will increase those rates for income support, for AISH, for senior benefit, and it will change how we deliver these supports, fundamentally change by indexing it with CPI going forward every year to keep up with the cost of living.
Are you able to explain why it wasn't indexed in the past, though? Because I remember one of the big substantial changes that came through was when Alison Redford was premier. I think it was $1,000 per month, and she boosted it up to $1,500 per month. So it was a big jump. And that's what happens if you don't index, is that eventually you get so far behind that you've got to make a major increase. It just seems like it would be an obvious thing to do. Why was that never suggested in the past?
I think previous government will be in a better position to address that, but
you guys didn't do it for your first 3 years in power either. You're just doing it now in an election year.
I think Albertans have been asking for it for a long time. For instance, even there was a MLA review back in 2001, where it was stated that these benefits are not enough and they need to be increased. And there were multiple asks from stakeholders and community advocates. And what we have done, we have taken a number of other steps to address poverty in this province. We came up with Alberta Child Benefit. We increased minimum wage. We have taken other steps to make sure that Albertans have the supports they need. And it is Bill 26, certainly it's very significant, but we have worked all along in these 3 years to make sure that Albertans have the supports they need.
Okay, so what was when you look at the Alberta Consumer Price Index, that's one measure you could use. I know that when they're thinking of increasing their wages at municipal level, the City of Calgary, they look at the year-over-year increase in average weekly earnings. Why did you choose this index rate, and what is it for this year?
I think we have worked with many advocates, individuals, organizations, and after those conversations, that was the ask that there will be a measure that best reflects the cost of living changes. That's how we went with CPI, and it's around 2.1%.
2.9%?
2.1.
2.1%, and so that increases to $1,588 per month. from $1,500 per month. Am I understanding that right?
From 1588, there is a lump sum increase of almost $100. And then going forward, it will be indexed to CPI.
Okay.
This increase, $100 more than 2.1, it amounts to 6 point some percent.
How does the assured income for the severely handicapped level, how does that differ from the other program, the income support program? Is it the same amount?
No, income support amounts are different than AISH, and those amounts, even within that program, are different for learner, for barriers with full employment, and other one is expected to work category. So we have changed all those, increased all those, and indexed all of them as well.
Okay, let me talk to Amber then. So Amber, tell us a little bit of your background. How did you get into a position where you had to rely on income support?
I was holding 2 full-time jobs at the time when I fell and slipped on ice and broke my kneecap. And I've struggled with, for my lifetime, I've always struggled with mental health issues, but this added a chronic pain issue onto that. And it's left me relying on a much-needed service. I have always struggled to maintain a great job and better employment. And unfortunately, this chronic pain and the mental health issues have left me to be an Alberta Works recipient.
How long have you been on it for?
For 4 years.
For 4 years. So how easy is it to live on $1,588 a month in Calgary?
So unfortunately, $1,588 is for AISH recipient. I had been living on, I can't remember the number, but it's gone up to about $100 for me. It's not easy to save, to live off of, buy healthy foods, be able to take yourself out for coffee and friends. It leaves you very socially isolated. And for me, I'm very much a community and social activist. So volunteering in my community and taking part in church functions was not an option for me in the past.
How important is it going to be going forward that this is indexed to inflation? I mean, does that remove some uncertainty for you?
It's the ability to go to a church potluck and bring a token, right? Give back to my community that's given so much to me, and take part in community functions. And I think that's really the misconception, is a lot of people I see who struggle on Alberta or income support, they want to be a part of their community, and they just don't have the ability to in the past. So now this gives them an option to do more for their loved ones and their family, friends, and church and community.
Well, you've got the minister here. If you were to advocate for something else, what would you advocate for? What needs to change? Anything?
A guaranteed annual income.
Oh, really? What would a guaranteed annual income look like for you?
Money-wise?
Yeah.
I'd have to do the numbers on that. It's different for everyone, right? For me personally, it would be being able to, I have celiac disease, so being able to buy those healthy non-gluten products to help my son through his post-secondary education, to take family trips and just live, right? And live with dignity and respect, and not feel that shame, embarrassment, and guilt when you have to go and burden in another agency that's already overly burdened.
Okay, so now we've opened Pandora's box, Minister. I know I've talked about guaranteed annual income before, because the federal prime minister has said that they're looking at that, and the development minister at the federal level has said he believes that a guaranteed annual income will happen at some point. Are you guys looking at that?
I think what Amber says, that's at the root of all the changes we made through Bill 6, that all Albertans should be able to live with dignity and respect. And guaranteed annual income, certainly an interesting concept. There are some European countries that are doing it. Some people in Alberta have advocated for it. And there was one pilot project that we were watching very closely in Ontario, but with the election of Premier Ford, that was slashed in first few days. So it's an interesting concept. We're monitoring other projects, but it's not something that I'm actively
okay, I thought you were going to break some news here today saying that you were looking at a guaranteed annual income. Okay, fair enough. But I do have to finish, though, by asking you about your colleague. Shannon Phillips is in the crosshairs, just not telling the truth about her interactions with the RCMP. How do you feel about that as a minister? It kind of casts a bad light on your entire government.
I think that issue, Bighorn issue, there are many Albertans who are passionate about it. And on both sides of the issues, whether people are for it or people are against it, all of them deserve to be heard and feel safe when they're expressing their views. And I think Minister Phillips have clarified it. There were some reports that staff was intimidated. People were concerned about their safety, and that prompted cancellation of those consultations. But as government, we are absolutely committed to listening to all Albertans on both sides of the issues and work with them to make sure that we get this right.
I guess you'd prove that by reinstating the public consultations. Are you going to ask her to do that?
We are doing public consultations.
Oh, you're doing it on telephone, but not face-to-face, which is what the people want.
We are trying to make sure that Albertans have the opportunity to weigh in on that issue. And at the same time, we have to balance their safety interests, safety concerns as well.
All right. So that was the Minister Irfan Sabir, as he's the Community and Social Services Minister, as well as Amber Cannon, income support recipient, talking about the indexing of some of the provincial support programs. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
All right. So guys, stay with us. We got some comments, 439-748-2555. You can also text me 630-630, and we will be right back on Chorus Radio.